Hello everyone, how is it going? Today's video is one that has actually been requested of me quite a few times in the past, and coming up a few times recently too. Today we're going to be talking about smooth and pixel variants of Cosmos Foil. Now, I'm sure most of you know what Cosmos Foiling is. It's one of the classic styles of Pokemon foils, being used all the way back to the WotC era. Nowadays, you don't really see it so much in sets itself, and it really appears only in promotional reprints of cards, in blisters, stuff like that. So the pixel and smooth variations of Cosmos Foil refers to a change that was made to the Cosmos Foil around the time of Legendary Treasures at the end of the Black and White era. As the name suggests, the change to the holofoil were smoothing out of the dots and the circles that appear in the background of these cards. Any cards printed before the change have much more pixelated circles, and any cards printed after the change, they look a lot smoother. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, they've probably updated most foils a few different times throughout the life of Pokemon. Why is this one so important? And the reason that this one is so important is that there are actually 7 cards which have both different versions of the Cosmos Foil, because they were printed and released in one product before the change, and then printed again and released in a separate product after the change. Now, 3 of these cards are Black Star promos, and those are Drifblim, Ninetales, and Ampharos. Black Star promo numbers BW64, 66, and 67 respectively. Now, these are the 3 that sometimes people have heard of, even if they don't actually know what the difference is between the foiling types. And that's because a lot of people still use Bulbapedia as their checklist when they're going through and making sure they have all variants of cards. And Bulbapedia does list this on their Black and White promo set as having both of the variants. The other 4 cards, however, not as many people know about, and that is mainly because Bulbapedia does not make the distinction on their checklist. And these are actually variant cards from the next Destiny set. It is the Cosmos Foil variants of Moltres, Zapdos, Articuno, and Wigglytuff. And again, it was just a case of they were released in one product before the foil change and in a different product after the change. So I'm sure your next question is, well, if I'm not going to be out there buying the sealed blisters and stuff for these, because I'm sure they're pretty expensive, how do you tell these two apart at a quick glance? So let's have a look at some close-ups. So here we can see side by side the 2 different versions of the Black Star promo Drifblim. These were scans I was able to take myself when I actually was borrowing a scanner to scan my sample cards for the e-reader project, which is a company organization who are preserving the e-reader data from cards. Anyway, they allowed me to use the scanner for some other things while I had it here, and this was one of the main ones I wanted to do. The Drifblim on the left is the Pixel Cosmos version, and the Drifblim on the right is the Smooth Cosmos version. At a glance, you can kind of see what it is that we're talking about. You can see that, looking on these here, if you compare this big circle to this one, you'll see that it is much more bumpy, much more pixelated. And one of the easiest ways to tell is the smallest dots, or the smallest circles on the pixelated versions, are just little squares and just crosses sometimes, whereas they are much more defined circles within the smooth version. But let's dive a little deeper into these. Let's look at some very, very close-up images I was able to get. These images show a lot better the exact change in the Cosmos Foil. You can see that what has actually happened is they're still using basically the same thing. It's the same dot process, only in the original, the earlier pixelated versions, all of them are in blocks of 4, whereas on the smooth one, it can be done in blocks of 1, which is what's creating that much smoother image on the circles and on the smaller hollow dots. On the pixelated version, the only place where it doesn't seem to be in blocks of 4 is just over here where it's in blocks of 2, but those go pretty much in a straight line down the card, so I'm assuming that's some sort of crossover version, either between 2 sheets of foil or some sort of repeating pattern where it ends off there. Everything else on the whole card, as you can see, is in blocks of 4. As I say, definitely most noticeable on these bigger circles where you can see the much greater drop-off and, the much more jagged edges compared to the smaller drop-offs where they're just moving one at a time. I am very glad I was able to get these scans to show this change. Alright, hopefully those scans were enough that you now know exactly what you're looking for if you're someone who is on the hunt for these variants. If there's any further questions, anything you think I didn't explain properly, or just something you want to know a bit more about, just drop it in the comments. I can either reply there, we can make a follow-up video, anything like that. Hopefully I did get it all, though. And as always, you know, any weird variants like this, or just any questions you have on Pokemon, feel free to just leave me a comment, drop me a message somewhere, and I'll help you out the best I can. But for now, that is going to be it from me for today. Hopefully you did enjoy, hopefully you learned a little something, and I'll see you next time. I would like to say a huge thank you to everyone who chooses to support me on Patreon. If you'd like to get involved, help support the channel, and see some behind-the-scenes content, click on the link in the description. Thanks again.
Thanks for watching. Check out some more videos right here.
And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome Pokemon content from DJ Gigabyte.
Gotta catch 'em all!